I'm going to reiterate here. We'll say it several times here in the coming months between now and Election Day. But this is your congressional office. It's mine too. I share it with you. And that's why I'm so offended by the sort of leadership we've been seeing from Barron Hill.
Yes, I am very offended by that. I didn't go to make him vote the way I wanted to on health care. But I did go to influence his vote on health care. And I felt like a non-person. I felt like he didn't even hear me. He didn't hear me. He didn't relate to me as a person. He did not connect. And that's what I'm afraid of.
Well, I'm a constituent of Barron Hills right now. All right, I'm a candidate, but I'm a constituent of Barron Hills, and I feel like I'm certain he has lost touch. And if you're not listening to the people, how are you making your decisions?
Exactly.
All right, who are you listening to? And that's one of my great concerns here. I mean, we know
Pelosi.
Yeah, we know his votes are out of step with the people in Indiana's 9th district themselves. He votes with Nancy Pelosi 90% of the time. Now, I go back to James Madison, drafted our Constitution. What was his idea of public leadership? What did he think the role of a member of Congress should be? Well, he had this phrase that always sticks in my mind, and some of you who've heard me talk before may have heard me mention it. The job of a legislator is to refine and enlarge the views of the people. So first you listen to the people on whatever the issue of the day is. Healthcare reform. You go back, you do your homework, you make sure you got the command of the facts. You share with people, again, how you think you're going to vote on this piece of legislation and why. You get feedback. You be open to changing your mind on certain pieces of the legislation. And you go through that process time and again and improve your understanding of your constituents' needs and the legislation itself. And ultimately, you cast a vote of conscience. You live with the consequences, secure with the knowledge that you did everything you could to advance the interests of your constituents and the country more generally. And you sleep well at night. Now that is leadership. That's precisely what we're not seeing from Barron Hill. That's what I'll offer. Yes, sir.
Todd, Brian Thurston.
Yeah, Brian.
I followed your campaign, been a supporter for a long time, the 20 months. I'd like to ask, sort of going along with the lady's question, asking you a challenging and a personal question.
Sure.
And that is not an easy answer, but what has changed or what's different in you over the 20 months? What have you learned? How have you changed that you didn't know before? And not that, Southern Indiana.
I believed that I could do this. My wife believed I could do this. Some of our close friends and family believed that we could make it through a 20-month ordeal, taking a lot of daggers from different directions, not getting a whole lot of sleep, not earning the same income to provide for our family. But I've gained a lot of confidence in myself and in our family. It's brought us together quite a bit. But it has really been encouraging for me personally, and this is where the confidence comes in, to see this campaign start with what most people regarded as a pretty naive effort. A first-time candidate driving around a district larger than the state of Connecticut in his Jeep. I still drive myself most of the time, incidentally. And sharing my vision for the country, hearing from other people, and then along the way, it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And the people who believed that we could do it continued to grow, and it's still growing. And to me, that's changed. That's given me a certain measure of self-confidence. Second thing is I knew the stakes were very, very high when this began. But I have become convinced, because of the legislation that has been passed during the course of this campaign, the stakes are far higher than when I began this campaign. I mean, who could have predicted? I certainly would not have. Just the height of fiscal irresponsibility that we've seen over the last 20 months. I mean, we are running out of time to address some of these fundamental issues. And they're fiddling as the boat goes down, if you will. Now, I'm an optimist, and this is the final thing I've learned. I've always had faith in the American people. I read some history. We've been through tough times before. we pulled ourselves up and made this country a little better for the next generation. Always left a little better than the previous generation had. But, you know, with the stakes so high, with the challenges so great, you have to wonder now and then whether we're going to pull through. And what I have seen over the last 20 months or so has just completely increased my confidence in the American people themselves. They have stepped up. Now remember, if the people didn't speak up, we would have a public option health care plan, which Baron Hill supported, even worse than this one that passed. We would already have cap and trade, the national energy tax. But they backed off after the House and Baron Hill supported it. But there's hope here. There's a chance. There's a chance to turn this aircraft carrier around, but we've got to start soon. So those are a few different things off the top of my head. You said it was a tough question. I hope the answer was sufficient.
Todd, many people, I think, have a misconception of what this country is, and in that this is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic. There was a question earlier about the health care. How can the government mandate that people, citizens, participate in the economy by buying a product from the economy? I would hope that you would encourage, through whatever means is available to you, that not only yourself but other people start to reflect on what is the constitutional authority for what Congress is doing, and not defer that to the judgment of 5 out of 9 people in black robes several years later.
Right. Everything must be justified by the Constitution, or it's extra-constitutional. It's illegal, right? So the Constitution defines those areas of responsibility that our federal government has. It's a constitution of limited and enumerated powers, Article 1, Section 8. That lays them out there, right? And the 10th Amendment to our Constitution says all the other powers that aren't available under the Constitution are reserved to the people themselves, to the states, or to private individuals. So you're absolutely right. I will be a strong voice for that principle. Healthcare is a great example. You hit the nail on the head. I mean, this healthcare legislation has an individual mandate that requires everyone in the country, unprecedented, to be able to buy insurance. It's been challenged by a lot of constitutional scholars, been challenged by states' attorney generals. I've got real questions as to whether it's constitutional. In fact, I think defenses of its constitutionality are very weak, because it's been justified under what is called the Interstate Commerce Clause. This is getting a little bit, we're going down the legal road here, but since you asked the question, sir, I want to let you know. Congress says under the Interstate Commerce Clause, it can require you to buy something you've chosen not to buy. The question, the legal question here, is by choosing not to buy insurance, are you engaged in commerce? No. Otherwise, the term interstate commerce ceases to mean anything. Congress says otherwise, or the majority who passed this legislation. We'll see what the courts say. But, you know, I'm a constitutionalist. I think the words have meanings, and when we begin to twist those words in creative ways, they start to lose all their meaning, and it opens up the floodgates for all kinds of government action. So
it seems much simpler to read the lines and not read between the lines of the Constitution.
Yeah. Well, there's this notion that we have a living, breathing Constitution, and so I would pose the question for those who share that view: why do we have a Constitution then of enumerated powers, and the ability to amend our Constitution if we feel like there ought to be a power in there that's not in there? Had to cover the Constitution a little bit. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's our fundamental law. It's very important. Yes, sir.
I think I'm a minority here because I think I'm the youngest one to talk. No offense to the older folks, but I am getting sick and tired of hearing about my Social Security, my Medicare, my Medicaid.